Perfect. Welcome everyone to the May 15th, 2024 regular meeting of the San Francisco Elections Commission. I'm the President, Robin Stone. The time is now 6:02 p.m. and I call the meeting to order. Before we proceed further, I would like to ask Commission Secretary Marisa Davis to briefly explain some procedures for participating in today's meeting. Oh.
Thank you, President Stone. The minutes of this meeting will reflect that this meeting is being held in person at City Hall, room 408, 1 Dr. Carlton V. Goodlett Place, San Francisco, California, 94102, and remotely via WebEx. As authorized by the Elections Commission's February 15, 2023 vote, members of the public may attend the meeting to observe and provide public comment either at the physical meeting location or remotely. Details and instructions for participating remotely are listed on the Commission's website and on today's meeting agenda. Public comment will be available on each item on this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak, 6 minutes if you are on the line with an interpreter. When providing public comment, you are encouraged to state your name clearly, and once your 3 minutes have expired, staff will thank you and you will be muted. Please direct your comments to the entire commission and not to a specific commissioner. When joining by phone, you will hear a beep when you are connected to the meeting. You will be automatically muted and in listening mode only. To make a public comment, dial *3 to raise your hand when your item of interest comes up. You will be added to the public comment line. You will hear, "You have raised your hand to ask a question. Please wait until the host calls on you." The line will be silent as you wait your turn to speak. If at any time you change your mind and wish to withdraw yourself from public comment line, press *3 again. You will hear the system say you have lowered your hand. When joining by WebEx or a web browser, make sure participant's side panel is showing. At the bottom of the list of attendees is a small button or icon that looks like a hand. Press the hand icon to raise your hand. You will be unmuted when it is time for you to comment. When you are done with your comment, click the hand icon again to lower your hand. In addition to participating in real time, interested persons are encouraged to participate in this meeting by submitting public comment in writing by 12 p.m. noon on the day of the meeting to elections.commission@sfgov.org. It will be shared with the commission after this meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Thank you, President Stone.
Thank you, Secretary Davis. Will you please proceed with item 1, commission roll call?
President Stone.
Present.
Vice President Parker.
She has an excused absence.
Commissioner Bernholz.
Here.
Commissioner Dye.
Here.
Commissioner Lavolsi.
Here.
Commissioner Wong.
Here.
President Stone, with the members present and accounted for, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you. The San Francisco Elections Commission acknowledges that we are on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. As guests, we recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors and relatives of the Ramaytush community and affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Closes agenda item number 1. We'll move to agenda item number 2, general public comment. Public comment on any issue within the Election Commission's general jurisdiction that is not covered by another item on this agenda. Welcome.
Thierry Phil?
1 second, let me get your time going here.
Nobody. It's too loud.
Okay, you're good to go.
Yes, so Thierry Phil is my name, artist name. I wasn't aware of this commission, actually. I just found out tonight, which is surprisingly empty. Nobody cares, it seems. Never mind. Let's go straight to the point. I wrote it down. Generally, I don't write anything. It comes from automatically. The words come out of my mouth. Okay, but let's do it. So basically, because of the expensive consequences of the pandemic of unintelligence, one of these consequences is to have exacerbated the trust in government officials and the system by which they are supposed to be soundly elected. So the future of San Francisco, SF, which is not science fiction, San Francisco incidents, is a totally new system that's going to be by drawing. Basically, you select randomly a certain number of locals who are going to decide who can run or not for a position after any candidate has demonstrated enough responsibility and critical thinking to be part of the draw. This limits enormously the possibility of corruption because in that case, the first mandate, initial mandate, the length is reduced. Okay. Now, we need to pay attention, meanwhile, how basically unintelligence here is going to self-destroy. It's automatic. So the system today. But with more than just a little help from my friend, the skies of San Francisco, from me to you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone online? Thank you, Secretary Davis. That closes agenda item number 2. We'll now move to agenda item number 3, approval of previous meeting minutes, discussion and possible action on previous elections commission meeting minutes. I'll open the conversation for commissioners. Commissioner Dye.
Yes, I had a couple of minor typo corrections, which I sent over to Secretary Davis and to President Stone. I also feel like we've kind of gone from kind of gross detail to almost no detail, and I think it's useful to provide some detail when the discussion, especially when it includes suggestions or proposal that kind of show what the commissioners are engaging in. So, for example, for the April minutes, Commissioner Wong had made a comment about adding Chinese and Filipino media for the outreach for non-citizen voting. I thought that was kind of important to note. I had suggested targeting schools with underrepresented populations for the high school ambassador program. So anyway, I made a couple of suggestions like that. And then for item number 6, I just thought it'd be good to show that we took public comment before we actually voted. So just flipping the order a little bit. And then for item number 7, we had a fairly extensive conversation on the issue of transliteration of candidates' names into Chinese characters. And it just wasn't clear where we came out on it. So just adding a sentence indicating that we basically concurred with the department's recommendations to modify the current policy, just so it's clear kind of what the conclusion of our discussion was. And for the March one, let me go for my notes. It seems to have signed me out. Same couple of typos. For item number 4, Commissioner Wong had mentioned the importance of collaborating with CBOs to ensure that the great content in the Mythbuster Mondays was also available to people who don't speak English. In item number 5, again, there was a pretty extensive discussion about how we could take advantage and communicate that it's not just about election night. In fact, President Stone had mentioned that it's really like election week, and then I had suggested it's actually election month, and maybe to kick it off with the start of early voting. And then Commissioner Wong had again made a comment about the importance of targeting ethnic media and making sure that the FAQs that have a lot of information are also available in multiple languages. And then finally, for item number 6, we had talked about agendizing the racial equity progress report. So just a few additional details that I have provided in with track changes to Commission Secretary Davis.
Thank you, Commissioner Dye. I'll touch on the one comment you made just about going from too much to too little. Since we've talked about this multiple times, and for our new commissioner, just to share a little bit about the previous discussion, the minutes are not supposed to be a transcription of the conversation. We offer multiple ways for folks to review what the commission discussed. It is really just a formal record of what was agendized, very loosely, like a general statement about that, and then any action that was taken. The more detail that is required is around public comment. And so I have been in the operation of what we had discussed at the beginning of the year. Sorry, I'm like leaning heavily forward. At the beginning of the year and last year, and we've had multiple conversations, I don't believe that it's necessary to include all of what you just shared. That's my perspective, because we follow the rules of what we have to include, and then we also have the video recording, and the video recording also is available in multiple locations. And in the description of the video recording, we also put timestamps so folks can watch and find the individual discussions so they could see that. That said, I don't want to get in the way of what you want to include. And so if you want to include those things, I'm not going to say no, but I don't personally think it's necessary. The only one part that I don't feel that I want to, or that I would like, oppose is a very charged word. I just would not agree about is the part about the consensus of the department's policy. I don't think that we had a general, we didn't have that takeaway of we all agree it's this. I think one thing that maybe is an alternative to that is we agreed not to continue the discussion, or that I think the fact that no action was taken kind of speaks for itself. But I wouldn't feel comfortable suggesting that we had some sort of consensus. That's the only part of the contents of what you said that I personally don't agree with. Just want to give another. Yes, Commissioner Dye.
Yeah, I appreciate the efforts to kind of, slim down the minutes. And I think it's great that we're starting to put timestamps in and bookmarks. I think that's all really helpful for the public. I do think that, kind of providing a gist of the discussion, which in most cases I think was done. There were some good summaries of kind of what was discussed. And I could call out a few things because, I think it's helpful for someone who doesn't want to go back and pour through 2 hours of video to, just see kind of what the commissioners engaged on, especially if there are kind of policy issues that are consistent with what, the commission has been advocating in terms of greater access, et cetera. So I think that's helpful, and I think it adds 1 or 2 sentences. So that's why I call those out in particular. And I'm totally fine with switching it to, no further action was taken. It just felt like it wasn't clear what happened at the end. So adding something like that would be fine.
Cool. So just to recap, I want to make sure we're on the same page. So your suggestions, we can accept those with the exception of the one agreed upon tweak. And then going forward, if there's content that you want to add, unless there's a disagreement about the actual content of it, I think you should definitely feel that you can. Is that fair?
Completely. I just think in the interest of transparency, just to make it easy on the public.
Fair enough. Anyone else? Thank you, Commissioner Dye, for your efforts and always watchful eye over the minutes. I appreciate it. Let's move to, and I mean that genuinely. Let's move to public comment. Oh, sorry. Before we move to public comment, do we have general consensus of everyone else to do what we just discussed? Just a general head nod would be great. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure it's not just Commissioner Dye and myself making the decision for everyone. Okay, let's move to public comment. Okay. Let's move to agenda item number 4, Director's Report, discussion and possible action regarding the May 2024 Director's Report. I will hand it over to Director Arntz.
Thank you, President Stone. So as you can see from the report, there's certain things we're trying to kick into action in the department for the November election. I think one of the main points to reiterate from the report is that Friday is the beginning of the nomination period for candidates to file for mayor and board of supervisor contests. And I think really from there, I can take any questions and clarify anything that's in the report. But just want to make sure that people realize that Friday is the beginning of the filing period for mayor and board of supervisors.
Thank you, Director Arntz. Open it up for. Yes, Commissioner Wong.
Thank you, President Stone. So I want to highlight 2 parts, one on the non-citizen voting webpage, as well as the Monday's hearing on AI in elections. So I'm going to start with the easier one, the non-citizen voting reformatted webpage. And I had a chance to take a look of the webpage. It looks fantastic. And I really appreciate Dr. Arntz of incorporating the feedback that we discussed from our last meeting, especially useful to inform non-citizen voter that they might answer no to the question related to registering for and participating in elections on their naturalization application. I think that would really reassure non-citizen voters to proceed with their right to register and vote in school board elections. So that I really appreciate. And I also noticed that you provide information related to requesting verification letter after each election. That's something that, we talked about last time. And then I really appreciate Dr. Arntz, effort in incorporating those discussion. And I'm really excited to see that there is an upcoming Language Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting coming up to discuss non-citizen voting outreach effort with grassroots organizations. And do you have any idea when the next advisory committee meeting will be held?
So we haven't set the date yet, but it'll be in June.
Probably in June. Okay, good to know. And I am interested in attending the meeting to listen and without making any comments. And I just want to check with DCA Russell. From my understanding, commissioners can attend the meeting to listen and without making any comments as long as it doesn't exceed the quorum. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, there's no problem. There's no issue with you attending the meeting and listening. As
Okay.
long as there's not a quorum of members there.
Gotcha.
Should be fine.
Gotcha. Since I think we need to coordinate among ourselves, so we don't exceed the quorum, I think I would suggest adding this item for the future agenda for the next meeting. Yeah, because I'm still pretty new. I just don't know if this is something that we can discuss right now. I think it should be discussed after it is agendized next meeting.
Point of clarification, what are you asking to have agendized?
To talk about my potential attendance to the language accessibility. I don't know if I need permission or, okay.
I don't. So I think we can talk about it right now.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I don't think,
okay.
I mean, I think folks can weigh in. I'm happy to add thoughts to it, but I don't think we need a formal
Okay.
agenda item.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I would love to attend the Language Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, and then just would love to hear all your feedback and if anyone else also is interested in attending.
Thank you, Commissioner Wong. Point of clarification as well for the director. Is that meeting in a public forum?
Yes. Yeah, people attend the meeting remotely, so it's not an in-person meeting.
So anyone could,
Anyone
can
yeah,
watch it?
right.
And is it recorded?
It is.
Okay. Cool. I don't see any reason why not. I think personally, I'll speak for myself. I'm always wary of when, and not always, but I've learned to try and I be cautious of, for my own self, this isn't me telling you what to do, but with the departments, committees, knowing that my presence can be potentially intimidating, as, you know, the commission. For example, when I go to department, I almost 100% of the time tell the director that I'm coming so that I'm not a surprise. Hey, you know, so that's more advice of just something to think about, but knowing that it is a public forum that anyone can listen to, I don't see, I personally don't have any concerns. I think, yeah, that's just advice. You can continue with your, yeah. If other folks want to weigh in on that or immediately they can, or we can just wait, but you can continue your comments.
Commissioner Dai, do you have a feedback on this particular issue?
No, I'm delighted that you're planning to attend.
Thank you. Any other comments on this topic? Just want to make sure.
Go, you can finish your,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Alrighty. So I am going to attend. So please keep me posted once the meeting date is available. And I do have a second comment on the AI in election special hearing at Rules Committee on Monday. I just want to check with DCA again if I can make comments and ask questions related to the special hearing. It is noted on the director's report.
Because it's part of the director's report that was included with the packet of materials on the agenda, you can ask him about that, yes.
Perfect. Just want to be very careful. So I had a chance to actually review the hearing recording. I find it really educational and informational. I really highly recommend the public and my fellow commissioners to review the recording if you haven't done it already. It is really, really helpful to hear from Director Arns, the Ethics Commission, and also expert in this field. And just to have like a quick recap and also verifying if I understand the issue correctly, the department does not monitor or regulate campaign speech, though the department jurisdiction covers misinformation related to the operational side of the elections, such as voter registration, voter process. For example, I think one example is, say someone, maliciously talked about misguiding people on the voting date or how they should register. That's something that the department can cure and alert the public about. Is this correct understanding of what the department can do in relation to disinformation?
Conceptually, yes, the specifics would matter, but yeah, I mean, the department would monitors and potentially would respond to any speech related to the operations of the election, like you mentioned, but every statement doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to respond to it. It depends on the situation and the facts involved. But yes, we don't monitor. We have no authority to monitor or to regulate, and we have no resources to enforce any sort of political speech.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's, I think, is my understanding from the hearing as well. So I'm happy to, and want to highlight that for the commission and also the public. I think that's really important to know what the jurisdiction is. And on the hearing, you mentioned about the department has developed protocols for identifying and responding to false and misleading elections information, and, subsequently activate evaluation and response plan. And you basically give an example that once the department identify problems, they can alert the public about that by releasing press conferences, updating the webpage, and also spreading the information to nonprofits partners. And I do have a questions about, just wondering, not that I'm implying that you should do that, a question that for the reporting and evaluation response, could the public, for example, report misleading information related to voter registration, the operational side of things to the Department of Elections, according to this protocol?
Yes,
Okay, and then, so the public can report to you,
correct,
and then you might or might not follow up with that, depending on the content.
correct.
Okay, that's good to know. And so on the hearing, the Ethics Commission also testified on their own protocol, right? To monitor and regulate some aspect of this information, and I think namely the disclaimer. And I was just wondering if there's any ongoing conversation or collaboration with the Ethics Commissions on this particular issue.
So we have exchanged, we've had a conversation since the hearing, yes.
Gotcha. Because I remember the executive director was talking about she wanted to learn more about the department response plan. I think that would be really great to perhaps, when things are more materialized, you can share more with the commission or the public, the collaboration or more detailed plan for dismantling AI-related disinformation related to the operational side of voting. I think the public will be benefited to learn more about what the department is doing, and then the collaboration with the Ethics Commission, if possible.
Yeah, I think it depends on there's so many variables. There's no one set approach to this. And also AI doesn't really create new concerns around the election. It creates perhaps new methods, or it amplifies the ability to generate information that would be adverse to the integrity of the election. So AI itself has not created new scenarios that we haven't dealt with before.
Right.
So I don't know what you want me to report, to be honest with you. So if you could clarify, please.
I guess, so going into more details on the hearing, I heard from the Ethics Commission that they want to educate the candidates and committee on AB 730, and not necessarily investigate anything related to that law. It's more about educating the public on this, and potentially also collaborating with the department on, perfecting the existing system. So I'm just wondering if there's more information on the existing system, and, if there's any plans or updates from the Ethics Commission would be great too. Because you mentioned that you started a conversation with the Ethics Commission. Just wondering if there's anything come out of it, it would be great to share.
Certainly.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think there's more about following up with what the hearing was about, and just happy to see more coordination among government agencies and commissions in these important issues. And I totally agree with Director Arns that AI-generated issue is not new in terms of disinformation, but because of AI, the ability to generate disinformation has increased substantially, and that make elections officials like yourselves and the commission hard to, dismantle those information and make sure the public have correct information prior to the election. So I think that's something that I'm just really interested in learning more about.
Certainly.
I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Commissioner Dye.
Thank you, President Stone. I was going to ask Director Arntz about what you said about AI at your session. So thank you, Commissioner Wong, for that executive summary. So a couple other comments. Thank you for the update and all the work you're doing with young people in the city. I think it's fabulous and really interested in the student mock election. I'm wondering, we'll get an update on that, or is that, you know, you're providing the information to them to sign up for it? Will we have a chance to hear about the results of this student mock election?
Well, the Secretary of State's office conducts the mock election, so we are providing information to the schools to join the Secretary of State's effort in organizing and conducting the election. As far as results, the results of the election are posted. And so you can even go on the SOS's website now and see past election results from the mock elections. And the mock elections consist of state contests and state measures. Certainly, we can provide that information to the commission.
Yeah. So since it's at the state level, I suspect there won't be any ranked choice voting then, right?
Correct.
Okay. Also, glad to see making progress on the Go Green campaign. That was good to see. And then I, of course, am extremely delighted that you're going to be working on improving the elections results reporting. So I'm very happy to see that. And I would be happy to make myself available if there are any questions on some of the suggestions that I put forth in the memo before. And then I also wanted to offer myself as a resource if there's anything on the education and ranked choice voting that I can, you know, help the department on. I just happen to have a lot of experience with ranked choice voting and how to message it properly. I've worked with Fair Vote before, so if I can be of service, please do not hesitate to call.
Certainly. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Dye. Anyone else? Okay. I had a couple of comments. I was looking for something, just bear with me. Something that came up. Opt-out requests. Find it. Oh, okay. I remember what it is now. Okay. Thank you, Director Arntz, for a thorough report and all the great work. Especially being responsive to commission input. As always, it's really awesome. And also just seeing continued great registration numbers in alignment with the commission's priorities. Thanks. Can you speak a little bit about why you were asked to present about AI at this special meeting? To the extent that you're aware.
I mean, I don't know. The genesis for me, I was contacted by Supervisor Preston's office asking what the department's role would be in relation to deep fakes. And that was in, I think, December. And then from there, that was told that a hearing was imminent on AI and that elections would be asked to report on it. And then later, and then also ethics would be included, ethics commission would be included. And it was until on Monday when the hearing took place. And that's my knowledge of our role or reason we were brought into that hearing.
So perhaps, and it doesn't sound like you're saying this, but one might wonder if it has to do with a candidate's, like someone who's running for office might be concerned about deep fakes about his own campaign. And you don't have to answer that, but I'm just curious if perhaps that had to do with it, because as it pertains to elections, we shouldn't, it really would be the Ethics Commission that would deal with concerns about campaigns. As it pertains to responding to operations of the department and actually administering the election, would you say you have a pretty robust process for responding to any kind of threat, whether, through the city's mechanisms of through law enforcement, FBI, and the mayor? So whether it's AI or someone physically intimidating someone, would you say it's a similar type of protocol that you would follow for something you saw with a deep fake that you would with a physical threat as well? Would you say it's the same?
Yes. And we can't stop anything. I mean, we can certainly put information out that contradicts or refocuses people on, the actual process. And but if the Department of Elections wanted to put out information and message to the public and to voters that there is disinformation, malinformation, or misinformation, dis and mal, we would have a very solid response and support from a lot of different agencies, and we would draw in a tremendous amount of media attention quickly. Ethnic media wouldn't be an issue. We would be in multiple languages, and it would happen nearly instantaneously. And that's been my experience. If something doesn't go right in elections, the people show up, and if we were putting something out there that there's something needs to be fixed, people would show up. So to me, it's not, the concern isn't the action, it's the reaction to the issue. And I think, and then in relation to the reactions, how much time has passed from the action to the react, because I don't want to have, my concern is that there's too much time where people are reacting to bad information without the department being able to respond to it and put out good information. And that's, to me, where the damage would because maybe someone would vote and we've counted that ballot and they voted on bad information. We can't fix that, so we want to be able to have a response to so the reactions are minimal to any bad information. But we have the means and we have the support in the city and also outside the city, and also the community organizations would be a part of this as well. I think San Francisco especially would be very responsive, and I think it'd be a very thorough response to any sort of bad information that was circulating about an election or elections process.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that insight, and I think it's important also just to not overemphasize fears ahead of November as well. I think there are a lot of different industries and areas of concern and around, the election in a national lens around the role of AI. And I think not just the election, but lots of other sectors and industries and policy implications that I think there are a lot of folks who don't work necessarily in AI who might be saying, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? Right. And I don't think necessarily that's the purview of the director of elections of San Francisco, but I do think what's important is that we have a strong response protocol if there is something that occurs, whether it is from AI or physical intimidation or anything like that. And I know, to be sure, that is something we've continued to talk about and that the department is working on. So the only other thing I would add about that is I think it just continues the conversation about how important it is that relationships with the media and the department remain strong. And what I mean by that is around results reporting and making sure that the media knows how to look for the correct information on the website and understands the length of time it takes to count ballots, which is stuff we've really already been talking about. So I think it just kind of further amplifies that need. But it's great to know that there is a response plan. I think people way above all of our pay grades need to be approaching this issue congressionally in other ways. So I think for the short term, important that we just have a plan to respond to immediate threats. One question unrelated to AI that I wanted to ask was, actually I had two questions. One was just about the budget process and the Elections Commission's desire to include a line item for digitization of our records. Do you know if that will remain intact or get approved / has it been approved? Will it be approved? Can you share a little bit of that?
Has it been cut?
Good, glad to
So
hear
it's
that.
still in there.
So
Yeah.
the mayor's office is listening. Please keep it in. Okay, cool. I had one question about the training, moving from in-person interviews, sorry, not training, the in-person interviews to, and I want to just find where it is. I think it was on, yes. The department would continue to integrate equitable practices, hiring temp election workers, allow applicants to complete a short interview questionnaire in lieu of traditional face-to-face. And we'll work with HR to vet the content of the questionnaire. Does that also cut down, like create more efficiencies for your team additionally? So we'll require fewer hours and, you know, do you feel that you'll still be able to, like it can achieve the same goal or outcome of having like a robust process that you need, if you even need a robust process? Like, will it still serve the goal that you're trying to get at by going that path?
We're hopeful. We actually did this partially for people who, for folks who assisted with the processing of the ballots last election. So now we're going to expand it out to other areas of our operations. So we did
Test.
Yeah. So yes, it worked fairly well for the ballot processors, and we're hoping that we can expand it out and it'll continue to work well.
So I don't mean to be funny here, but you might also consider how AI would impact that, because folks may also be using ChatGPT. So it might be worth putting in the questionnaire into ChatGPT to see what answers would come out. So if folks are putting in an answer that just was spewed out of ChatGPT, you can compare against what answers you got. Full circle there with AI. That was it. Otherwise, thanks again for this report, and I appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you.
Commissioner LaVolsi. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. That's better. Thank you for the report. And I just have a question about this section. Congratulations on submitting your racial equity progress report. I had a question on the first part about the outreach program to those individuals who are involved with the criminal justice system. Do you have a way of tracking the number of people that are being impacted by this? Or measuring?
I mean, we can measure the one measurement is the number of people that we engage with during our sessions, and I think we do that. But once we're no longer on site, it'd be hard for us to really track. We don't. Potentially, we could track registration if they use the hard copy registration form, because when we have outreach, we generally categorize a certain number of registration cards for an event or to a group. So potentially we could be tracking that as well. But as far as we don't track them as if we have not tracked them if they're voting or beyond the registration status really, or just are engaging, and that would be anonymous. But so the engagement, the point of engagement, then potentially a registration. In the past, we have measured those sorts of instances.
Is there a way to give us a sense of how many people as a result of this program and outreach have registered, who were previously not registered, and potentially be in a future report?
For the jails, yes. I think pre-registration for those in juvenile, probably, I'm sure. But in the jails, yeah, and that's probably in one of my previous director reports too. I don't remember.
Okay.
If we put the number in there, but I can provide that the next month.
Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you.
I think also, point of clarification, I think you also include it not from a registration perspective, but in terms of participation in the election in your post-election
Okay.
report of the folks who participated in jail voting, but not registration. So that is a data point that we get
Okay.
through that. But I imagine Prisoner Legal Services probably has like a very, well, I know you guys work together on that. Anyways. Oh, yeah, Commissioner Volsi.
Just a clarification, I'm more interested in registration as a result of the outreach as opposed to participation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was responding to the director saying he thought he included it in a previous report. And I was saying, I think that it's actually the number that he's thinking about is the one of the post-election review. Yeah. But could be wrong, always. Anyone else? Okay, let's move to public comment.
No hands are raised.
Thank you, Secretary Davis. And thank you, Director Arntz. Let's move to, that closes agenda item 4. Let's move to agenda item number 5, Commissioners' Reports. Discussion and possible action on Commissioners' Reports for topics not covered by another item on this agenda. Meetings with public officials, oversight and observation activities, long-range planning for commission activities in areas of study, proposed legislation which affects elections, and others. All right, well, I'll just share one quick item in the vein of digitization of records. Secretary Davis and I have been talking over the last couple weeks about digitization of records pending the budget approval. And so I've asked that we start kind of throwing things away in the file cabinet that are not necessary and starting to catalog and organize those records. And then should we get the funds to do it, we'll be able to, good to go, we'll be able to scan and upload onto the website and get that organized. So I have a feeling that once we do get the budget, this will be probably at least a year process. Not just because of the organization of records or even the actual, like the digitization of them, but also moreover, getting them on the website and organizing them on the website is a task. And so I just want to set everyone's expectations that not only will take a long time, but it also will likely not be under me as president, or I would assume that folks wouldn't ask me to do a third year as president. So someone else will have to oversee that project in once that comes around. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Hopefully we get that that funding, and I think it'll be really important for continuity that we get it digitized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, let's move to public comment.
No hands are raised.
Thank you, Secretary Davis. That closes agenda item number 5. Now we'll move to agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action concerning Commission's process for performance review of the Director of Elections and Commission Secretary. So I'll just set the table a little bit. As the ever astute Commissioner Dye pointed out, there were no attachments for the Secretary's evaluation. That's a there's a specific rationale for that because I was going back and forth about how to approach this. So a little bit of background. Former Commissioner Giordanic had in his very lengthy proposals for the evaluation process, which I used the bones of in other ways for the director's process. I just simplified it a lot. I took a lot of those recommendations, and one of the things that I thought was really good for the secretary was that we should align it. We should actually detach it from the review of the director. Reason being, we should align it with the term of the president. So he proposed in his documents that we conduct the evaluation for the secretary in December based on the president's term. I agree with this approach. Last year, we didn't conduct a review of the secretary, and there was a specific reason for that, which is that Secretary Davis joined in April and took, I think the onboarding process. She's also a part-time employee. I don't think it would have been fair to conduct an annual performance review. But so my proposal of how I want to approach this is actually just for me and Secretary Davis to have a mid-year general conversation and then of just, hey, how's it going? Let's look back on how things are going moving forward, and then conduct a more formal process at the end of the year to align with the end of my term as president. And we would probably kick that off around October, November. So it's not ultimately that far away. If you do want to provide some thoughts ahead of that, I will take those into consideration in my conversation with Secretary Davis, but this is the way I think it makes the best sense. Moving on to the director's evaluation. So a couple things about this. So Commissioner Giordanic put together a very strong process. But like I said, I wanted to simplify it, streamline it a bit, but I used kind of the bones of that and actually condensed it a little bit. And one of the challenges, in addition to that, it was also an extremely long process for us last time. We had, I don't even know how many meetings. I don't even want to think about how many hours. And so basically what I did was I took I took Commissioner Giordanic and I think BOPEC's conversation about this, streamlined it, and then I actually condensed a very specific part about this. Before I get to that, one of the biggest challenges we have that you may be wondering how it fits into some of this is that we changed the June meeting to June 5th, which means we actually have a much shorter runway between this meeting and our next meeting. And so that is the reason why we're not having the full evaluation in June. We would do it in July, but the process is kind of extended to provide enough time for everyone to weigh in. The biggest difference of Commissioner Giordanic and my proposal, which I actually hope you all will find agreeable, mostly because I think it will shorten the length of the conversation, is that you all will provide me with your reviews of the director. I will combine everyone's comments into what I believe to be a full recap of everyone's and try to take the main points and then share all of that back with everyone. So I will put together like a summary document. It won't be everyone's comments, every single comment for every single section. It'll be, okay, I think, Commissioner Lavolsi and Commissioner Bernholz had a similar comment, or, I think this was addressed in a different part of the review or whatever. I'll try and do my best to honor people's input and put together a summary document of what I propose to be the final version. I will also share everyone's individual reviews, so you'll be able to see how she maybe connected those dots, et cetera. And that way we can review the summary document in our discussion. And that way people can bring specific points that they want to make sure maybe I didn't capture in the summary document. I just think it'll be a much more efficient process that way. This is, like I said, not included in Commissioner Jordanik's original proposal. So this is a new step in the process that I'm hopeful you all will agree with. And then to that vein, I included additional time in my review of everyone's evaluation than perhaps everyone else gets. I think I gave everyone 2 weeks. I think I get a little bit more than 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. And the reason for that is also that it's over the 4th of July. I don't plan to work on the 4th of July. So those are the kind of 3 considerations I wanted to raise. With that, I will hand it over for you all to weigh in. Yes, Commissioner Dye.
Yes, thanks for that and for considering the timing of major holidays and our meetings. I think one thing that is missing that was in the proposed process that BOPEC discussed last December was the opportunity to request additional information. We had talked in the past about how the commission doesn't have a lot of visibility into, staff interactions with the director, and yet we're, expected to evaluate him. Obviously, that's an important part of his job. And so there were a list of suggestions that was discussed by BOPEC. We had talked last year about, 360 reviews, employee surveys, EEO complaints, just objective information that we could consider as part of our evaluation rather than, not having a whole lot to say just because we don't have visibility over that. So where would you think that would fit?
Would you like me to respond to that?
Yes.
If there is a specific piece of information that you specifically would like to have us consider, feel free to raise that. I never felt fully comfortable in some of that. I think the EEO complaints, I think I was more open to. I think our relationship with the department is really supposed to be through the director. So that is why I wasn't trying to opine on those specific items. I just didn't, I wasn't trying to prevent us from talking about these specific documents. I just didn't think that they were it wasn't a priority in putting together the process.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, you're right. That is the commission's interface with the department is through the director. Yet we are the only, evaluation point for the director. There's no separate DHR process. And he is a senior manager that, manages a lot of employees, a lot of temporary employees. And so it would be hard to provide a comprehensive evaluation without, considering that and providing feedback. And it was pointed out that, in the past, there were guidelines that were adopted in 2016, which predates all of us. But it includes it previously, apparently, the commission used to invite, one or more employees to interview in closed session. So that I'm sure is in lieu of a anonymous employee survey or some anonymous, kind of 360 process. But what I would hate to do is not take advantage of the expertise that DHR does provide to, provide comprehensive employee reviews and including for managers. And if there are, tools or employee surveys that have been done, I would be interested in seeing that because I feel like, that's where we kind of punt because again, we don't have a lot of visibility over that. And yet it is an important part of his job.
Just to respond to that. So a couple of questions and comments. So you said take advantage of what DHR does provide. Are you aware of what DHR provides, or you're just making a guess that that's what they provide?
I'm guessing they're a professional HR organization that, that manages a huge number of employees and managers and probably has standard processes. And because of the unique composition of the Elections Commission and our oversight responsibility for the director, they basically are hands off. And, that's fine. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't leverage their expertise and whatever tools they use for other managers.
I see the tools they use for other, because I don't know that they do 360 reviews. Like I can't confirm they do, but I have met with DHR, and the extent to what they offer is being able to tell us the number of like EEO complaints for the department. And I will just speak I would be very surprised. I'm very curious of having a member of the department come and speak. I know John has been invited to come and speak. I'll just speak to everyone. I would absolutely not be comfortable with someone working for John coming and presenting to us. I think personally, I find that inappropriate. And I also don't think we'd be able to really get the answer. Like, I don't know how objective that would really be actually. But I do think when I've spoken with DHR in the past, because I've gone through this now multiple times of the evaluation, and also when we talked about opening a competitive selection process, I also engaged with DHR quite a bit. And EEO complaints seem to be where at least Commissioner Jordanik and I landed. And I think we talked about it as well. The trouble is those things we can't really get much further than that because they're actually like confidential. But I could, if folks wanted to, I could ask them if there have been EEO complaints. I could reach out and ask.
Well, and I don't know if they do employee surveys that are, broken out by department. I mean, I will just say that, we've kind of faced the same issue at the state level, at the California Citizens Redistricting Commission, where there were 14 of us who were supervising the executive director. And this question came about how to do evaluations. And, they sent their head of HR, who gave a very professional presentation on our responsibilities as managers and a framework on how to evaluate. And, they had processes and standard practices in place. And so I'm assuming DHR, and at the city, probably has equal level of sophistication. So I don't know. I don't know if they do an annual employee survey citywide and maybe break it down by department to provide feedback for managers, if nothing else. But if that data exists, I would want to see it and leverage it. We did have that unique opportunity when we were looking at, opening up a competitive search, that a number of employees came and spoke to us in public session and wrote us a letter. And so we had some, feedback from employees the last time around, even if it was kind of under perhaps with inaccurate information that prompted that kind of response. But yeah, we had discussed that. It's like, how can we get some feedback from employees? I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, I'm not sure how this was done in the past. It apparently was a practice of the commission to invite, a couple employees just to provide feedback, just to, in closed session. I have no idea how they were selected. I have no idea what the process was, but that seems to me in lieu of something that might be more objective and standardized, like an employee survey, a satisfaction survey. I mean, that's pretty normal in the private sector. So I don't know. I can't claim to know what the city does over here, but I've got to imagine there's some kind of tool for employee feedback.
I would be happy to go back and ask DHR if they can send us data, and that if that's, I can incorporate that into the next 2 weeks, just reaching out to them and saying, hey, do you have anything that's readily available? Because I also would hate to have it slow down the process as well. So I'll just reach out and
Yeah,
ask them if they have anything. And if they do, I'll include it
great.
in
Yeah, I mean, standard statistics too, like retention. I mean, so there's EEO complaints, there's retention, turnover, there any other kind of information that we can use would be helpful. I mean, I'm sure they must do some kind of survey for all the temporary poll workers that interact with the department as well. I mean, I've got to imagine there's some kind of feedback mechanism. So if that's available, it would be helpful to have that, because otherwise we're literally only reviewing him based on our interactions with the director at meetings, any one-on-one meetings that we have, and his own self-evaluation. And that's not a lot of data points. That's all.
So I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, he provides monthly reports.
Sure.
He provides very robust election plans and post-election reviews. I just would, I agree that maybe you don't have all the data you want, but I wouldn't say all that we get is, the director provides a lot of transparency into what he does.
I don't disagree with that, but I'm saying we don't get any information from other sources other than the director. That's one thing.
Well, I would also add the incident reports for the election plans is data. I think there are many. I just don't, I don't necessarily agree that it's only through the director. We get full incident reports. Director Arntz isn't the one who's like providing data on how people vote. I get what you're saying, that you want a different audience you want a different stakeholder to provide other angles of data, but I don't think, I just don't fully agree with that assessment. But I'm happy to reach out to DHR and ask what they have. That's no problem. And perhaps, just going in response to that, Commissioner Dye, we could also, I think totally fair, we could also provide, especially for new commissioners, a list of what data we do have access to, so that folks know, they can consider these types of things when doing their evaluation, because I don't think that is included at this point in the process. So I'm happy to also add that here, different data points that you could use to evaluate on these criteria. Commissioner Wong.
Thank you for the robust discussion. I think I learned a lot from your discussion about past practice and suggestions by President Stone and also Commissioner Dye. I have a clarifying questions. President Stone, when you say EEO complaint, do you mean equal employment opportunity?
That's correct.
Okay. And just to clarify, because I'm super new to this commission, so you mentioned that DHR can provide information related to EEO complaint.
Oh,
Yeah, I just want to have more clarification on that.
totally, no problem. They can provide the number of EEO complaints, but they can't provide the content because that's privileged.
Gotcha. That's useful to know. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified that.
No worries. So only the number, but not the contents due to privacy issue. Okay. And in relation to employee survey, I do agree that it would be great to have different source of information when we conduct evaluation. So if DHR has an existing survey already conducted on a regular basis, it would be useful for us to consider those when we conduct evaluation. And I think what Commissioner Dai was talking about, like retention data or any sort of HR data that they already collected would be extremely useful. So it doesn't harm to ask the HR for more information. But that said, I do agree with President Stone to not summon or ask employees to testify in closed section just because of just existing power dynamics. Could be scary. Even though it's a closed section, who knows? People can find out, and I don't want employees to feel uncomfortable while doing that. So anonymous survey would actually help if such thing exists, to prevent power dynamics or things that we don't want to see, like retaliation at work. So I think that's kind of just my feedback based on the discussion. And I do have 2 questions. One is just a really simple question. So each commissioner will need to submit their individual evaluation form. I was wondering, will the public be able to reveal our individual? Okay. What about the final recap evaluation? No.
Yeah, that's sorry, continue. I'll respond. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Just to confirm that the public would not be able to reveal the individual evaluation form. What about the final recap evaluation?
Thank you for that question. I should have said that from the beginning, especially since you haven't gone through this process before. The commission will hold, because I only wrote the commission holds closed session to review and agree on a final evaluation. None of that will be an open session. None of that will be publicly available. All of that is done privately. And in fact, what will also likely occur, I mean, I don't want to speak for the full commission, but I think this is how it worked last year. If I had to guess, this is how we will want it to be this year. The director also won't see our individual evaluations either. We will agree to one evaluation that I propose I deliver to him. And last year, just to also speak to this, since I should have clarified this, so I appreciate the question. Last year, I also, I gave him a written copy, but then I also met with him in person privately and shared the feedback and allowed him to ask any questions if he had any. But all of that is confidential. So after we've talked about the process, everything is not in the open.
So including the director's self-evaluation would be confidential as well.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much, President Stone. I'm just wondering about like if it
I'm
is
glad
subject to public information.
No, I'm glad you asked. I should have said that from the get-go.
No worries. I appreciate the clarification and also like coming up with a robust system to evaluate the directors in a way that is respectful, but also, make sure that we're also functioning and then actually providing constructive feedback to the director. And I do have a second question that I think you might already have addressed, but I do want to talk about this. So since I've been on board for only 3 months, I'm not sure if I have enough information for, I reviewed the form already. For example, like effectively uses and manages the department's budgets and resources. I'm sure, Director Ans did a wonderful job. It's just that I do not have information to do, and I can review past meeting recordings and minutes, but it would be really hard, I think, for me to do a thorough assessment in some aspect. So yeah, it would be great if there's any guidance or additional information or data to look into, and I would feel more comfortable commenting, or else I might just kind of just say I don't have enough information. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. My response to that, and I think other folks should weigh in as well, is that you don't have to do anything. This isn't like, when you show up to the first meeting and we're voting on something and you're like, I don't know anything about this, and you still have to vote. And it's not actually that scenario this time. If you want to write one sentence of, from my short time, I observed X. I'll speak for myself in this. I don't think you should have to go back and look through every single thing. If that's a lot of a lot of work. And so, you know, I think if there's an area that's of particular importance to you, you know, I'm supportive, but don't overburden yourself would be my personal suggestion, but that's just me.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughtful, comments and feedback. I would take you up on it. I think I would write you a few feedback that from my, really brief observations and interaction, my one-on-one with Director Arns, and provide constructive feedback, but then might not be able to, provide, feedback on other aspect. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner LaVolsi, thank you, Commissioner Wong. Commissioner LaVolsi.
Yes, I have a question about the timeline for the review. I am going to be traveling internationally, and so just want to make sure that I'm clear that you need our comments by the 28th or by July 12th,
The 28th.
the 28th. Okay.
Would it be helpful if we go step by step?
No, I'll just have to get them in early because I won't be here. I won't be.
Yeah,
able to do it
I'm going to
I
have to
will
do it
be
immediately since I won't be here
immediately,
either.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood that. So you need them no later than 28th.
What I would suggest is if you can get the self-evaluation earlier. I mean, if he finishes assignment early, then distribute it early so that those of us who are leaving town can work on it.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think I gave him the same amount of time, I believe, that I would give us. I think I gave 2 or 3. But if you recall from last year, and Commissioner Wong, I know you weren't here, the director puts a tremendous amount of work into this. Like he writes a very thorough report, self-evaluation. I think last year was more than 10 pages. And so I want to be fair to him also. And I don't think any of us write 10 pages.
No.
So I just I wanted to be fair to knowing that he cares deeply about doing that. But if you need to edge into my review, like let's talk about that. I'm happy to. But basically the process is, giving everyone, he gives it on.
The 13th.
Yeah, and then I would just immediately send
Send
it
it.
to all of you
Okay.
on the 13th.
That's fine.
And then on the 28th, you send to me. And then between the 28th and the 12th, I am evaluating everyone's and putting together that recap, which will take me honestly, a long time.
I'm sure it
Yeah.
will.
So I wanted to leave myself.
Well, you're
Okay.
going to get our feedback early because
Yeah.
we're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
And like, I don't overburden. I mean, I think, yeah, we can hopefully, yeah. So if you need a couple extra days, just let me know ahead of time so that I'm not bothered. I don't want to like have to message anyone saying, where's your thing?
Right. No,
That's-
I'll
that's-
get in early. I am going to be out of the country from June 22nd through July 9th. So I'm not going to be available.
Yeah, and I'm
to-
leaving even earlier, so I'll be doing
Right,
it that
so I'll just
weekend.
get it in- I'll get it in early. But thank you. I just wanted to
Thanks.
clarify that because
Yeah.
it wasn't clear. And then I had another question. And DCA, this might be something in your purview. I'm not sure. The 360 evaluation, if that were to be done, are there any legal implications for doing a 360 review, which is essentially a review how many people in nonprofits I'm reviewed in my position in that manner and look at anonymous feedback and talk to my head of school about it. So it is a common way to get information and feedback from people you supervise or just the community at large that you function in. Is that something that is not common in the city and county? Or are there any legal implications because often people are with bargaining units? What is that?
Well, I'm not a labor lawyer. Let me just say that from the outset.
Okay.
I don't, I'm not aware, my office does not do 360 reviews, but it is something that's under consideration. So I don't think there's a legal issue with doing
Okay.
it. I am not aware of, I've never received an anonymous survey for my department. The only surveys that I've seen that are similar to that are related to the racial equity implementation that we've done in the past couple of years across the city. So it's possible the department has done that kind of survey, and he may have even reported on that here. I'm not sure. But I'm not aware of other departments doing sort of like a general employee satisfaction survey or review the department
Feedback.
head survey. So I'm just, it may exist, but I'm not aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
That's probably why when Commissioner Jordanik and I spoke with DHR, basically the best they could offer was EEO complaint numbers. But I will ask. I'll ask what they have access to.
Right,
And
so
if it is-
essentially, it's not a common practice of the city and county.
I
based
can't
on-
speak to that,
Yeah.
but I will. I mean, you've
Right.
worked in the
We have
city
one
for a
data point
while,
here.
so,
Okay,
but
no, just.
Yeah,
curious.
it's just really common.
It's very
in the-
common.
It's very common in the private sector. It's pretty normal. I mean,
I've never had that in any organization I've ever worked in, and I've worked in
Mm. Have you
many.
been a director?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah, it's very common in the
Yeah.
private sector.
I also worked in the private sector. I'm just saying it's not just because it happens doesn't mean that it happens here. So I think
Mhm.
it's fine. If they have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't. I'll do what I can, as I said, and I will ask. And if we just get EEO numbers or no numbers
That's
from
what we get.
them, that's what we get. But I'll ask.
Yeah,
I'll
and
have-
then they should have like turnover and retention numbers. That should be basic stuff they capture.
Anyone else? Okay, so just to quickly make sure everyone's on the same page, after this meeting, I'll share the form and the process with Director Ernst immediately the next day. Ask him to complete the self-evaluation form, give him the June 13th deadline. As a reminder, that is after our June meeting, our June 5th meeting. We will not be agendizing this. So just a quick reminder of that. When I get it from the director, I will immediately share it with all of you. You will have until June 28th to review, submit as hefty or as not hefty as appropriate. And then I will put together a recap evaluation that I will share to the full commission, which is basically a proposal of combined comments and share that plus all of the individual commissioner evaluations so that in the packet, so that folks have that for ahead of the July 17th regular meeting. Once we've had the conversation and agree hopefully in that one meeting, I will then share it with the director thereafter. Do I have general consensus with that approach? Okay. I'm really, really hopeful. The goal in my mind is one closed session meeting. Okay? That is the goal. If we can achieve that, then I feel like we're rocking and rolling. Great. Oh, and in the interim, I will also reach out to DHR. Great. Let's move to public comment.
There are no hands raised.
Great. That closes agenda item number 6. Let's move to agenda item number 7, agenda items for future meetings. Discussion and possible action regarding items for future agendas. So just a reminder, our next meeting is June 5th in room 416, I think. I think we sometimes like that room better.
Yeah.
Any asks? I think it will be probably a pretty light agenda, given that we'll have just met. Pretty much just meeting minutes, the director's report, but anything else?
Nothing
Okay.
needs agendizing.
Let's move to public comment.
No hands are raised.
Thank you, Secretary Davis. Okay. The time is now 7:26 PM and the meeting is adjourned. Told you it'd be a quick one. Thank you, Commissioner Bernholz. Bye.
are you considering doing? You said that there's.
Should not be surprised. It's a reputation.
I haven't done it.
It's like ridiculous, right?